It's a special edition of our First NBC Bank weekend preview as we focus on the high school football playoffs. Lenny Vangilder, Ken Trahan. We switch roles because Ken knows more about high school football than you know about just about anything. Ken, we're on to the second round, the quarterfinals. Ordinarily, we'll be talking about a bunch of games on Friday night. Let's start right off the bat, though, with the fact that the Monroe area expecting rain on Friday. Half a dozen games have gotten moved to Thursday, including a couple of games that involve local or Southeast Louisiana teams, I should say. Riverside Academy and Kentwood have to make the trip up to Northeast Louisiana a day earlier than planned to play on Thursday night.
And I think it's good for both of them, too, because they have skilled athletes. And if they're playing on a bad surface or in bad conditions, I think it would hurt them. So I think it helps the area teams. I think they'll both win. It won't be easy. It's a long trip, and they're playing good teams. But, yes, I think this is the right move by all of these schools in Northeast Louisiana to make this decision. It's all about the quality, and it's all about getting fans out to the game. And if the weather's bad, they're not coming.
No question about that. So there are a total of, if I've done my math correctly, 56 games this weekend, 40 on the non-select side as we've got 8 second-round games, 16 on the select side as we're on to the quarterfinals in those brackets. Let's start on the non-select side, if we will. Class 5A, a lot of interesting matchups, especially as it relates to local teams at the top of the bracket, with Trahan having to make the trip across the lake to Mandeville, John Ehret having to make the trip over to the River Parishes to take on Hahnville in a very intriguing 8-9 matchup.
Yeah, I think Trahan wins. I think Mandeville's tough and they're extremely well coached. I just think Trahan has too many athletes on the field, but it should be a competitive game. John Ehret Hahnville is a great matchup. John Ehret's defense, even though they lost a bunch of guys to Division I football, is really good, and the Hahnville offense is really good. So it's one of those matchups. I think it comes down to what happens up front. If I had to hedge at all, I might give John Ehret a very slight edge, but this is a tough game. Acadiana Ponchatoula, man, how many times you play it again, right? I mean, listen, these two teams have played each other, 4 times in 3 years? They're getting tired of seeing each other. Ponchatoula won at Scott by 1 point earlier this year, but now the rematch game, it's always tough to beat a team twice when there's equal footing. And then, of course, you got Barb Sanoma, which I think is a really good matchup in 5A. That's an even-Steven game, too.
A lot of good matchups to look at in 5A. As you go to 4A, Endicar's got to go on the road this week, but McDonough 35 gets a home game.
Well, I don't think it matters where Carr plays unless something astronomically bad happens, like 6 turnovers or bad weather or whatever. I just think they're that good. 35 at home against North DeSoto. I think they'll win the game. And, of course, then you look at the rest of the matchups. I think Warren Easton is a live underdog at Tioga. You know, they're not as good as they've been the last 2 years, but they're still pretty good. You have to look at who they've lost to. I mean, they've lost to Jesuit, Tyler, Texas, Mac 35, and Carr. So they're still a pretty good football team. Tioga can score, so this game has a chance to be high-scoring. Plaquemine at Woodlawn or Shreveport, that's a really good matchup, and I think this is a live underdog here. And the Green Devils of Plaquemine have played a really tough schedule this year. And Karen Croy at Laranger, that's another great matchup. 2 9-2 teams, and you look at what they've done. Laranger beat Kentwood, and they beat Amite. You know, and then, of course, Karen Crow, they beat Acadiana. So you're looking at a really good matchup there. I think, by and large, those are the best games in 4A.
Yeah, and that last one, the 8-9 matchup on the 4A side. As we take a look at 3A, I guess the one area game of interest would be Lutcher at home to Wassman. Of course, Amite as well, but a couple of area teams still with some live chances there in that bracket.
Certainly, I like Lutcher to win their game. Amite to me is going to be one of the chalk teams along with Lutcher to get there, so I like them to advance as well. As far as the best matchups, Gina Giants, the 9 seed at the 8 seed Northwest. How good is Northwest? They're 11-0, but they've only played one team with a winning record, so we're going to find out. They're good. But how good, we'll see. Gina's good. They've played a tougher schedule. And then Carroll at Marksville, really good matchup. Carroll's just got a bunch of athletes on the field. They beat Wassman in their big rivalry game. Marksville lost to Manny. That's the only loss they've had. They beat Gina, Winfield, and Peabody, so good wins there. I think this is a really good matchup.
Look forward to seeing how that turns out. As we go to 2A, not as much. The one matchup, local teams, South Plaquemines going to West St. John, who pulled the upset last week, so they get the right to host the second round game in this scenario. So there's that. When your thoughts on the 2A second round?
Yeah, playing in Edgard's tough. And here's the thing about West St. John, losing record, but look at who they played. Their district is the best in the state, and their non-district schedule is dynamite. So their record is totally deceiving. And South Plaquemine played a tough schedule, too. That's a really good matchup, for a 24-9 game. So you're looking at a good matchup there of two teams that I think that obviously are better than their records, and certainly one goes on to the quarterfinals. Faraday-Laurelville looks like the best matchup in the class to me. An 8-3 Faraday team, a 9-2 Laurelville team. That's a 10-7 matchup. And you look at the losses. That's what I look at sometimes. The Trojans lost to Carroll and Sterlington. No shame in that. Laurelville lost to Notre Dame and Catholic of New Iberia. So it tells you pretty much about them. So really good matchup there.
Yeah, and of course, no 8-9. That's the 7-10. There's no 8-9 here because West St. John pulled the upset as the 24 seed last week. On to Class 1A, while you don't have a lot of local interest outside, of course, of Kentwood heading north a day earlier, your thoughts on the 1A second round?
Yeah, Covenant Christian's got a tough draw with Cedar Creek. Cedar Creek makes a long trip, but they're good. They played a tough schedule, and that's a really good game there. And then the other best matchup is East Beauregard, 9-2 at 8-3 Delhi Charter. This is pretty good. The Trojans had the better record. They've won 3 straight, but they're the lower seed. The Gators, they lost to good teams in Gina, Oak Grove, and Mangum. They've averaged 50 points in their last 3 games, all wins, so maybe there's a trend there.
Maybe so. Now, we go on to the select side. Quarterfinal round. Boy, there's some good matchups in Division I, and obviously probably the one area that people are most familiar with in these parts. And you start at at the ballpark that will be named later, I guess, on Airline Drive with Rummel and Curtis meeting for the 4th time in 2 years after they didn't play for 50 years.
Cake Stadium, is there going to be a candle on it? I don't know. Stay tuned. Division I has the best matchups of all. All 4 matchups, frankly, could go either way in my mind. John Curtis a slight edge over Rummel because I think they're a better team overall, but Rummel had him even with less than 5 minutes to play, and the ball passed midfield but fumbled in the first matchup. And it's a rematch game. Stay tuned. Evangel at St. Paul's. What an incredible matchup that is. Evangel lost to Allen, Texas, top 5 team in the country, and lost to Neville, and they've ripped off all these wins in a row now, 9 in a row, and they're really good. St. Paul's is legit. They lost to Carr week 1, and they've won every game since. Catholic Brother Martin, play it again, Sam. Wow. You're talking about 2 straight years, games that came down to 2-point conversions, and here we go again. This time it's at Olympia, 3rd different stadium in 3 years, by the way, and we'll have that one on WGSO 990 AM as part of the original on Friday night. And then St. Aug's Scotlandville, rematch game. Scotlandville handled them the first time, 36-20, and they're at home again. Levi Lewis is terrific, but so is Justice McCoy, and St. Aug is playing with house money right now, so I think this is a closer game.
Yeah, I think this, if any team is improved from week 1 to week 10, more than any other, I would say it's St. Aug in Division I. As we go to Division II, get our first look of the playoffs at De La Salle, the number 1 seed in this bracket. They play their neighbor literally in Lusher, but they're taking the game out to Metairie to Joe Yenny Stadium.
Right, and they beat them earlier this year in district play, and Eli Poche is really good for the Lions, and Coach Landrum's done an outstanding job, but De La Salle's got too much talent. I don't see them losing this game at all. The best matchup in the class undoubtedly is the 5th seed Parkview Baptist at the 4th seed Turlings Catholic. Either one could win it. Parkview Baptist is the defending champion. Their record is a lie. They played the toughest schedule in the state, bar none. And then the other one, the upset special, is U High, just kind of a sleeper at the 7th seed, traveling to Shreveport to play Loyola Prep. Loyola Prep's had a really good year, but they haven't really been tested. Lost in week 10. U High's played a ton of a schedule, and they're a young team getting better. I think U High pulls the upset.
We shall see. That's a very intriguing bracket as well. We go on to Division III. Riverside has to travel, we mentioned, a day early. Ouachita Christian, that is a tough 1-9 matchup as you look at it. I mean, it's a Ouachita Christian team that's only lost 1 time all year, just like Riverside. So we'll start right there.
Yeah, OCS is a great program. Stephen Fitzhugh does a tremendous job. His son's a really good player, and they're at home. And they have championship pedigree. Riverside has athletes all over the field. Extremely well-coached football team, all things considered equal. I like Riverside to go up there and win. Country Day went up there and won last year. I like Riverside to win the game. Newman and Catholic High, rematch of 2 years ago, 55-35. Catholic and New Iberia won at Lupin Field. This one is in New Iberia. Newman coming off of a high. If they can sustain that, they've got a chance. The question is, are they spent after that incredible win over Dunham? We'll see. St. Charles Catholic Calvary Baptist is a fantastic matchup. Calvary Baptist scores points like you wouldn't believe, but they don't stop people. And St. Charles Catholic can play defense, and they got a really good taskmaster in Lloyd Nash, a quarterback, their best athlete, and their coach is elite. So, and their kicking game's good. I give St. Charles Catholic a slight edge in that one. So, Country Day, tough task going to Notre Dame. I don't think it happens.
Yeah, let's clarify one thing. Newman at home after they pulled the upset. Yes, that's fine. But the interesting thing is all 4 teams out of that district, all playing in 4 different games. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that we could see an all District 9 2A semifinal situation, although it would take a couple of upsets to do it.
Entirely possible. And, I got myself on the home game there with Newman because I'm the one that corrected the LHSA and said that Newman's at home and they kept having Catholic at home. So then I reverted to the faux pas by them, and it's my faux pas. There you go.
Go. And lastly, Division 4, while not a lot of local interest here in terms of Southeast Louisiana, still some intriguing matchups.
Well, I think the best matchup is 12th seed Central Catholic and the 4th seed Westminster Christian. There's a real live underdog at 12. That's a really good football team with 4 losses. They avenged a regular season loss to Lafayette Christian on the road by 20 points last week. They had high expectations going into the season with the senior team. They started slow, but boy, they're playing well now. Upset special there. And then, of course, you look at Southern Lab. Nobody's going to beat them. I mean, it's that simple. The other matchup that's a good one is Cedar Creek at Covenant Christian. And Covenant Christian's a good football team. But as you know, the district's not very challenging. Country Day moved up, and they don't have the challenges, and that really, I think, hurts them in the playoffs. Cedar Creek, on the other hand, played a very tough schedule in a good league. I like their chances to come south and win.
9 classes and divisions, 56 games. Well, it's a lot to get through, but we've taken you through it. Again, as Ken mentioned, Friday night is part of the original Brother Martin Catholic from Olympia. He'll have that coverage for you on WGSO 990 AM. We'll also have a game for you Friday night at SportsNOLA.com. Stay tuned. We'll have news of that one coming to you very soon, but it will be a good one. Ken, your favorite time of year. Enjoy Friday and a little bit of Thursday as well as we get the second weekend of the playoffs going.
Yeah, I think I need to drive to Monroe and go catch a game, right? Thursday night.
There you go. There you go. You've got nothing else to do. That is our special edition of the First NBC Bank Weekend Preview, focusing on the high school playoffs, brought to you by First NBC Bank, locations throughout Southeast Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. He's